For the record, Brad.
Here.
Alicia.
Here.
Sean.
Here.
Mr. Tibbs. Here. Ashley.
Here.
Steve.
Here.
Okay, we'll have the invocation with Alicia and I'll do the pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this day that you've given us, Lord. I just thank you for our blessings and our freedom as we celebrate our Independence Day this week, Lord. We just thank you and give you all the praise and glory. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions or deletions, corrections to the agenda?
None.
Hearing none, we'll go to item 4, and that'll be discuss and or approve following meeting minutes, May 6, 2025.
Motion to approve the minutes. A second.
Motion by Brad, second by Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
May 6 are approved. Now we'll go to June 17th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alicia, second by Brad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Item 5, city manager.
Okay, just an update on our citywide GIS mapping project. We're supposed to have some on-site training on July 10th. So the system is coming along. It's looking pretty good. For our marina development, the Granger Group is already anticipating just turning plans to develop the front portion of the property. They're going to do it in sections, that kind of thing. So they're meeting with Glades County building staff to start that process and the permitting process. The broadband, the challenge program, the B challenge program, as far as me here, the administration has still paused that project. It's on hold, so we're not sure what's going to happen with that $40 million program. But there's not, like I said, there's not too much reading that we hear right now. It's just been paused. I mentioned earlier with the governor signing the budget yesterday. We should start getting the state revenue sharing numbers that we use for budget purposes in a couple of weeks. The property appraiser is supposed to release today the new property tax values for the upcoming year. So we'll probably try to get together and have a preliminary budget workshop later this month before we get to just more for planning purposes to start with what we're going to have to work with for the upcoming fiscal year. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, there in the legislative process we were part of the county. There was a in the legislative process there's a $3.1 million item for the wastewater treatment plant, and there was a $2.7 million for the city's water treatment plant. So like I said, I guess the way that process works is once the budget's been signed, probably in another 30 to 60 days, the budget people will send it down to particular departments. Most of ours would be FDEP, and for them to start putting together a grant agreement. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have you can start get that going. So the phase 6 of the sewer. The 36 sites that we missed, the 5 A, B, and C things, they're out the bid. I think that it closes on. Do you remember the date it closes on?
On which one?
The
Sewer.
phase 6 sewer.
I don't remember the date on that.
It closes later this month. So
Yeah.
With that's selected. And I think that's everything. The sheriff.
Anybody have anything for Larry? Mr. Steve?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up briefly about the potable water plant one-ish, if I'm not mistaken. Now we're about 50%. So I had mentioned, I think briefly at the last meeting, I spoke with Angela about, because we really need to, when we get this started, just get it all done. Or maybe Connie through the state on some financing. It's probably not worth for the amount that we're talking about a USDA and getting obligated like that, but I would like to keep the ball rolling with that. And once I think the engineers do their feasibility or rate study, get that up to date and we see what we're dealing with. What's that going to mean for rates? Obviously with some of it offset by grant, that's why the cap money could come in and assist the citizens with not having to have rates increased or increased as much theoretically if you just went out and got financing. So I want to keep that in your heads that I think we really need to just get it addressed and be done. And because tying in with what Mr. Tibbs said about the Granger Group and the marina property, I kind of been sitting on some issues that I want to move forward with because I wanted to make sure this was legit. And now that they're going into the process to start pulling permits to do some construction and, get it into their phases. And I want to get a little bit, I've been dialoguing with them a little bit as far as trying to keep up with what they're planning to do, over time period. Like for instance, on the marina, we talked about when we had the workshop, coming back and doing an RFP for management and or more development, i.e. the seawalls would be beneficial. So there's also the possibility where we can tie in some property. So you can do like a mix and match with an RFP where you have marina management and maybe some development, and on a long-term lease, obviously then a company could say, okay, if it's going to cost X number of dollars to put the rest of the seawall in, how do we recoup that over time? What kind of lease are we talking about wanting to do? And then you can maybe even have part of a component where you use the city property for the purposes that you were talking about, like a restaurant or tiki, facility. It doesn't have to be the same group, but perhaps a larger group can bear everything, or perhaps you would want to parcel it out where you have different groups being able to participate. So again, I wanted to keep that in your mind. So at some point, I'll have to talk to Mr. Tibbs about, starting to come up with an RFP. I mean, we've looked at, like, I think we had told you Sarasota and their city marina. Obviously, it's on scale, a much different marina than what we're talking about, but still the concept's the same, where you want a developer to come in and do improvements on their dime. Obviously, for them to recoup on those improvements, they're going to need a long-term lease. A 2-year lease is not going to cut it. Like in Sarasota, I think, what was it, a 25-year lease with an option for long more?
I think it's a 30-year lease.
30-year lease. So, and that's reasonable, especially if, let's say I'm going to be arbitrary. The seawall is going to cost $2 million, $3 million, whatever. I don't think that's probably that far off. If somebody is going to be able to do that and they're going to calculate per foot how much the dockage they can get in the future, and be able to then run a profit and loss off of what, if they put this money out now, what can they recoup over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, there's probably going to be a good amount of work. But again, I didn't want to like we spun our wheels, so to speak, last time with the whole marina management and rental issue, and it turned into a fiasco. And I don't want repeat
Mhm.
a bad scenario. So, but keep that in mind as well. The other thing too, and I talked to Mr. Tibbs a little bit about this prior to the meeting, on the budget side of, we need to budget in some money for the planner. I don't know what we typically budget in, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the city code. And that's a large project. I'm not saying bite the bullet and do it all at once, but we need to be able to get the code into the 21st century. And, there's certain parts that probably need to be addressed before others. But, again, when it's not going to be cheap, and I don't know, we could talk to the planner, about maybe phasing that, but that's something again to think about in your upcoming budget process, that we really need to get that up to speed. So that's basically all I have. So.
Vice, anything to see? City clerk?
I don't have anything, just to answer your question. The July 18th, phase 6 is when the bid opening is.
The bid opening is July 18th, phase 6. So
You caught me in the middle of a yawn and I didn't hear what you asked.
We keeping you up?
Just a little bit,
July
You
18th,
drink some milk.
right?
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Did you get me those signs from Florida Avenue?
Yeah, I think did they get them put up? Colleen, do you know? Joe? The Florida Avenue sign?
They put up?
Mhm.
Yeah. 2?
It's what I had ordered. Remember, I told you I ordered one and we were going to go through the other company I had just got a quote from.
Okay, I need one more.
Okay.
I need to put one down on the corner past John's welding shop. Joe, please. That one there is really bad. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Greg E. Smith isn't here. Connie isn't here. Public Work Director isn't here.
He's out ill, yes.
So we'll accept the motion to approve the bills.
Make a motion to approve the bill, the amount of $80,000, $199.72.
Second.
Have a motion by Sean and a second by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Citizens' comments, general concern speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anybody have anything? Mayor and
Where's the
council.
popcorn, right?
Well, after the Lord shut down.
Mayor and council to give reports. You got anything, Brad?
No, sir.
Alicia?
Just something that I've been thinking about with King by himself again on call. How did we do that last time that he was by himself? Did we?
He has the option to call somebody out if he needs help.
I know, but he's on,
Oh, yeah.
but he's on call 24
Yeah.
hours now.
Oh,
He doesn't have a,
period.
yeah, he doesn't have a relief.
He gets the on-call
Yeah.
and then he gets an hour extra day, every day extra on his time is what we were doing. I don't know if that's the same.
Okay.
And we are looking to have outside someone on standby to.
Okay, just with storm season and everything, I'm just
Yes.
concerned about that. And then also, I'm not sure, I can't remember how much, that position is budgeted or how much we start them at, but maybe looking into upping that so we can try to find, hopefully maybe that we can find someone who wants to stick around a little bit longer than they usually do,
Yeah,
And I know it's hard, and I know linemen and they chase the money and they make good money. But maybe there's somebody who likes Moorhaven, like I do, and wants to work here. So, just something to think about for King also being on call 24 hours, making sure that he's compensated for that, until we do get someone, and then also maybe looking at that position, and maybe biting a bullet for, next budgeting and see. I don't know what the right answer is for that, but just something to think about.
So the other guy doesn't work with us anymore?
Mhm.
Yeah, he worked out very well, but unfortunately,
Yeah,
someone offered him a lot more money.
yeah.
So King's up there by himself.
Well, he has
Got a helper.
a helper, but he's not certified.
Right.
It's just basically like a ground.
Mhm.
That's all.
He did that for quite a while, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that he's compensated for being our only lineman, for being on call 24 hours a day,
Sure.
and especially through storm season.
Brady.
The other night at the EDC meeting, right after Mr. Tibbs left, there was a lot of communication talking about when you turn off on West Avenue, someone spoke about getting that, I guess when you turn off, I guess they want that ditch covered up or something. And they want the city and the county, I guess, to work on that project or something, if I'm saying it wrong, work on that project as when you're coming off the highway 27 to West Avenue. It's gonna be a lot of traffic going on that road because of the new school being built, and that the city and the counties to get together and get that ditch there thing covered. I guess it turned into a road because it wasn't built like it's supposed to or something. And then there was also comment was made that maybe the city could get some things done if they hold meetings longer than 18 minutes.
Well, we're approaching 18 minutes now.
Right?
If we get out right now, we can just call it 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can leave them there.
So,
You're talking about like that canal,
yeah.
I call it a
West
canal.
Avenue, yes.
I mean, it is narrow. There's no doubt.
Mhm.
And especially if there's anticipated development, like I know just from marina development potential, and there's some property down that road that could be looked at for more residential development. But where's the city limits?
That's the county's ditch.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Right.
And no one told them to build the school there.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
I understand that, and it's been that canal ditch. I don't think it's a canal. I don't know, but that's been an issue
sure,
forever.
sure.
There's been plenty of cars end up in it, and golf carts, mowers.
Right.
Um,
But my point is that, yeah, I didn't think it was in the city limits. So when they say, oh, the city and the county should get together, it's easy to the wall, so to speak, but it's really not our jurisdiction. Now,
right.
That being said, obviously there's a problem or a potential problem. And if the road needs to be widened, I'm thinking about on the other side, how much room there is, but at a minimum, there needs to be probably a guardrail.
Yeah, there's a guardrail when you turn off, and then there's some.
It's some, but
Then it's open, then there's some a little bit down, and then it's open again.
it's hit or miss, but
Yeah, so it's not, but
it's really a county
I
responsibility.
would believe that would be a county issue.
Okay, it's really a county issue, but in terms of ultimately, and I'm not saying this is a tangible that's going to happen, but I've talked to other people who are interested in doing a subdivision down that road, and theoretically could get annexed into the city.
Mhm.
So if that was to happen, then it does become a bigger issue for the city.
Right.
So I don't know what the answer would be at this, because to address it, from a safety perspective, to me, the easiest would be just a guardrail, a consistent guardrail all the way down for the time being. But, it's the length of a meeting doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how do you fix the problem, because also the county has to address it as well. I don't know if they have or if they haven't, but
Also, they would have to actually bring it to our attention that it needs to be done.
Yeah.
true.
And next meeting, let them know that the election is next November, and they're more than welcome to run if they would like to be on city council.
Looking at, yeah, I was at the meeting, at the very beginning, but I had to leave out of emergency. But I was basically covering some of the grant things that were, at that time was in process, but I was updating on, that, we expected to get money for the sewer out of the legislative process and then for the water treatment plant. And I think, from what we're looking at the minutes, from what I understand, that later on, there was some discussion about there was not proper planning for water and sewer because we have the lift station over at Sportsman's Village. There for right now that was funded, but there was a lot of concern that there may be some projects going on further down US 27 to the south, and why weren't we playing for water and sewer and funding in that area? And basically, you're not going to get funding for future development.
Right.
We get this funding now because with septic sewer and all that, because the state's under a BMAP, a Basin Management Action Plan, to reduce nutrients and everything getting into the lake. So that's how we're getting septic to sewer conversion money, because that's the state's objective, is to get the lake cleaned up. So that's how we're getting this funding. But I don't know of any funding out there for future development. Because you get the same problem with the business park. You get the business park in there without utilities. So anybody that wants to buy into there, they're going to have to either put in the utilities themselves, or else whoever owns the business park is going to have to go ahead and probably upfront that to get utilities in there if they want to market it, kind of thing. But EDC should be marketing, development in the area. But like I said, I guess the critique is that we're not doing enough for planning for water and sewer. Well, we're doing what we can, but we do not get funding for future development.
Right.
We just-
Yeah, it's something to that, Larry. We also discussed going north with all the streets that we have on the north side of town instead of going south. We had a big discussion about that.
Yeah, we brought up that we had the countryside, the area, I guess that would be back east of that, instead of basically putting in sewer where we have people there now.
Development there.
Development there and businesses there that are there ready to develop. So, we can try to attempt to get funding for that, because that will keep them off septic.
You remember that, Steve, quite a
Well-
while ago.
Well, way back when the sewer authority was created, there were, I believe, 8 phases, if I'm not mistaken, that were initially contemplated. We've really gotten to the point where we've maxed out with what was initially contemplated, because the emphasis was initially on the 27 corridor, because what's going to give you more bang for the buck, so to speak. And that's kind of how that was developed. And what's the area that has the most user or potential users, because logically that's where you're going to recoup your money. The fact that we even planned and went under the river was a big step, hopefully in anticipation down the road if something ever came to fruition with the airport. But again, that's circumstances beyond our control, but we are positioned to be able to do that. Obviously, it's going to take a lot more, planning on
It's
that.
probably, we have lined up, Washington Park is lined up. We have Countryside lined up. We just got Bowden's funded and doing these other projects out there. Plus there's 85 single family homes going in out by, where's that at, actually?
Near Wagon Trail.
Near Wagon Trail, that's under development. So this is probably, even with the sewer expansion, it's probably going to tap out that sewer plant. So anything going further down 27 is going to have to be a different, for example, if Wedgeworth is going to do something, they may have to do like they're doing at Buckhead Ridge, put in their own plant or whatever, or something. But that will probably exceed what our wastewater treatment plant can handle. It depends on how much development goes in there. But like I said, I think we're intentional, like you said, was to finish off the city and county areas up here. So we have all that under.
But it's, and the whole idea, the whole concept has been from the start, if you do this with grant money, you don't have impact fees, which again puts an additional burden on the residents. Obviously, you have your rates to recoup what you need to recoup, and that's what the engineers are looking at, because there's never been a rate increase, I don't believe, from inception, but at least you have a finished product that was 100%. I think I can maybe remember one time where there wasn't some grant money used, but I think it's pretty much been 100% to make the steps that you have, I think is good. But yeah, like you say, what's concerning is where you logically would have some development, you need to make sure you address and get that infrastructure in. Like, for instance, I know from the GCDC, if the business park was to be developed, that to me is the next most logical place to have infrastructure. And it would be concerning to me to not be able to, if you have a developer or some sort of business that's going to employ people, to not be able to develop that property because of being limited, because there's no ability to expand the sewer there. But at least with the money for the plant, that'll get the plant, if it's run the right way, far down the road. I don't say that, lightly, because it hasn't been run the right way. But yeah, there's so much potential growth. We are probably going to need to look at another long-term study and what makes the most sense and the next phasing, and should it be here, should it be there? I don't know the answer to that, but from what I see, the airport's not going anywhere fast, so why worry about that direction when we have more tangibles on this side of the river? So
Right above the bank, and can't put
Yeah.
his building up because he has no sewer there. We've got great growth right in that stretch heading north, those streets.
But there's certain people at the EDC that has this discussion periodically about not proper planning because there's nothing scheduled for going down to 27. I said a couple times, I don't have any funding available right now to do that.
I know that I've talked to Connie a little bit on the side, just in general, on some of the statutes that are available for certain types of funding, whether it's not per se grant, it's more or less financing that passes through from the state to the local jurisdictions. And I've asked her to look at some of it because it could come into play where we need to maybe look at, if we have a business or two that wants to come in, how are you going to service these businesses? So, for instance, somebody wanted to do a grocery store, how are they going to do that?
That's right.
So, but there are other avenues to that, where it's perhaps workable, but, we're to worry about on the other side of the river at this point, I don't think is really where you're going to get your best returns. It's on this side, like you said, if there's people being precluded from developing, and it's to the county's detriment as well, because that's all going to be in the county's jurisdiction pretty much. So,
And they're partners in the store.
so we probably need to, at some point, I think, on the city county side, workshop it to where, here's where we started, here's what we've done, here's where we need to go, what makes the most sense. And then hopefully we can keep going like we have, where we've primarily done the construction with grant money. So. But yeah, so it's interesting what gets,
Yeah.
bandied about. Now we've gone over 18 minutes. So
Yeah.
I guess we're safe.
Another thing
thing that I've heard too is, new sidewalks for the new school. Would that fall under us to have to take care of, or would that?
I guess it depends where they are.
Well, it would be on the city
It'd
side.
be on the city side,
Everything
yeah.
to the city would be on the, or everything to the school would be city side.
We take care of the sidewalks on Sixth Street.
But I know that that's been,
I think we mow them, though.
that's been mentioned. So.
I would
something to think
I
about.
would have thought that
That would be in there.
the
Yeah.
county, that the school would have factored something like that in when they were developing this.
So you would have some kids gonna walk.
Because it's a
down there.
lot, it's not like it's not it's unforeseen or not that you would need that, so. But then I wasn't here at the last meeting, so what happened with the whole controversy with who's paying for what with the,
Well, we're going back out to bid.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, who should participate in the upgrades to the ball field lift
Yeah.
station. Because one thing, you know, the new school has their flows. Bowden will be going in there, and some other things. So the discussion was to put it out, and, you know, it obtained some quotes from different people, but, you know, put it out officially out as an ITB, so they come in with a price, and then what the engineers are going to try to do is based on flows and demand, you can figure out how, you know, who should be participating in funding that lift station, because it does need to be upgraded for everything that's going to happen out there. It's not all, I guess, apparently, it's not all school related though, too. It's not totally, there's going to be other, they're upgrading it for, like I said, Bowden's and just the fact that it's, you know, it needs to be upsized from what it was, you know, intentionally, I mean, previously, developed to do. So that was a plan. I guess we'll come back when we get the bids and
Yeah, nothing was
next
decided.
meeting and
that arm wrestle over who pays what. Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
trying to look at more of a factual way to do it other than just, you know, just saying, because, you know, there's still the school board's still going to keep the old elementary school and make it for administrative staff, I guess, kind of thing. So
The one building,
Just
the
the
two
one.
buildings in the back
Yeah.
are gonna be still there.
So totally, that water sewer usage is not totally going away, but it will be reduced. So, you know, they're trying to figure out those flows also. But trying to figure out some fair way, I guess, to sit down and say, you know, who, you know.
Every classroom's gonna have a bathroom.
He's well, yeah, which is what he's talking about.
Yes. Like in the grant, I'm assuming whatever the school
Because
got
that's
built,
already
the
been
school
approved for
grant or
these other
whatever.
houses.
Would it, I remember at a meeting that they discussed that there was funding for upgrades to like lift stations and things like that. Would it be detailed in that grant packet? Or the funding for the
No,
school
the-
packet
the,
or?
The general contractor, Weissman, has a $40 million contract to construct the school. So, so like I said, when the discussion originally came up, I think the school board said, yeah, they would, instead of, you know, at one point in time talking about a new lift station, they said no, that, you know, they would take care of upgrading the lift station. But however, at that point in time, there was never any dollar amount mentioned. So months later, when this came up, the market has totally changed. You know, the dollars that do this upgrade to
Just for
the
that,
lift station, that's when the sticker shock
right?
hit. So, and then that's what attracted some of the school people. They were indicating that kind of thing, that all the upgrades to this lift station should not be their responsibility because, you know, they were,
They're not the only ones utilizing.
you know, utilize it, and that, you know, they had a couple people that are saying, well, the problem is every dollar they spend on take that, is less they can spend on the students. But it really goes back to the problem of the this new contractor is he wants to, he don't want to take that money to come out of his cut.
Typically, the contractor, when he bid, have line item allocations. What did he put in his initial bid and what was accepted to look for. And then because I don't know ratio wise, if it's going to cost $1 million and they have budgeted 450,000, so roughly, 45% of the cost. But then when you talk about, who's using what, is that fair or not fair? That's, where the negotiation comes in. But just to get, I think, a good starting point, I would look to that if you're going to investigate it as to what their line item bids were and what do they have allocated for that particular function of the contract. So.
We all heard what he said.
He said that they would pay for it.
Anything else, John?
But thanks for bringing that to our attention. See, it was good. It was good to bring it to our attention because, it's food for thought, but.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We should take a bye breath. All those in favor to adjourn.
Aye.
Aye.